LCTR here, and it's about time we looked at a tactical hardcore FPS game that we haven't looked at in a while. It's been a couple of sizable updates since we last laced up our boots and ran into Insurgency Sandstorm. And before we get into the video, in my normal full disclosure way, I want to say that the developers of Insurgency Sandstorm give me access to the game via Steam for the purposes of making videos just like this one. So for those new to the title, you're probably wondering how it compares to other games in this sort of broader genre. In that vein, I think it's probably best thought as a smaller mapped, more traditional FPS game experience version of something like Squad. So you have the hardcore damage model, the superb weapon handling, superb audio, and focus on those over a more kind of cinematic feel that something like Hell Let Loose has. It also has those more traditional FPS features like teammate icons that show through walls, a kill feed, and a more round-based structure to many of its game modes. You might think of it as more segmented and structured than Squad's more open map feel. As I mentioned a second ago, the game is very much in active development, and for a title that's just a couple of months past its second birthday, that's sort of really good to see. I hope the devs have managed to find a model that works for them and for their community, to continue to fund the game and keep it alive with those players who clearly still enjoy their time with Insurgency Sandstorm. As for the content of the updates, well, their meat is mostly the sort of things that keep games fresh. A new map added at the end of last year with a snowy theme, plus new weapons. Unlocked for all, by the way, there's no sort of gating of specific weapons here, and some more sort of limited time game modes. And just a quick aside to say, if you are enjoying this video, please do tap the thumb up button. It helps me out with YouTube and discoverability and all stuff like that. If you tap that subscribe button right now as well, I appreciate that too. Thank you very much. The last time we talked about Insurgency Sandstorm, I did mention that some of the cosmetics that were being added to the game felt, to me at least, a little out of place. The others that have been added since then, like that desert hexagon pattern that you can see in some of the weapons that I'm actually using in this video, they fit pretty well. With the DLC player model cosmetics still feeling like they're treading that line a little bit too carefully, I'd say the skull face masks are a step over that line for me. However, in recent developments, the devs actually announced that they weren't introducing the latest raft of weapon skins into the game due to community response. It's perhaps not surprising that a game focused on realism also fosters a community who don't want weapon skins to emulate something like Call of Duty. It's also nice to see that the devs are listening to players who are active in their game. The pricing of these cosmetics also seems very reasonable to me, even more so when you compare it to other FPS games as well. I think these desert weapon skins for 6 models were just a whisker under £2.70 for me in the UK, which these days you'd pay more for a drink in a coffee shop, and that seems good value if you like the look. I'd also say that the lack of loot boxes or RNG of any kind for paid cosmetics is also worthy of praise. The core gameplay of Insurgency Sandstorm might feel closer to Squad, as I said. That doesn't mean that it doesn't also have facets that make it unique too. That smaller map and round-based structure does make it feel like it lessens the pressure for the sort of rigorous communication and coordination and general teamwork something like Squad, Hell Let Loose, Postscriptum will thrive on. It feels like there's probably more room for lone wolfing in this game. The weapon handling and damage model firmly fit into that hardcore camp though. Basically, any weapon can kill with a single shot if it's accurately placed, though there are some options to wear armor that can help a little, but no one is tanking a bunch of shots with ease. That isn't this sort of game. The weapons themselves seem to be of high priority for the devs though. There's clearly meticulous attention to detail over the modeling, animation and sound design. There's numerous scope options, attachments, magazine options that cost a varying amount of loadout points that you can choose to apportion to the kit that you actually enter the match with. Want more attachments? Well, that's fine, but maybe you'll have to drop that secondary weapon to afford them, and decisions like that, and so on. The attention paid to the animation isn't just for first-person eye candy, though. Yes, the fire selector is moved accurately when you change the mode, which is insane level of detail, to be honest. But it seems like the weapon itself is accurately represented in the game world as well. So what does that really mean? So if you're aiming as you move closer to a doorway, and the animation shows the weapon being lowered or raised to get around that obstacle. And unlike many other FPS games, the bullet is spawned from the direction that the weapon is pointing, not just from the middle of your screen. It means things like shorter, more nimble weapons actually feel like they're more suited to closer range engagements like inside of buildings. It also means that sort of head peeking to fire over obstacles just doesn't exist here. Along with other tactical FPS titles, Insurgency Sandstorm does not have a large ammo pool system for reloading. Each magazine is independent. If you reload after firing one shot, then that magazine is reduced by 1. It pays to remember how many shots you fired, whether the next magazine in your belt is going to be full or not. But it actually goes even further than that. With the option to fast reload, a double tap of the reload key. This will discard the magazine currently in the weapon, saving reload time, and then load the next. You will be quicker, but any rounds that are in that previous magazine are lost. These smaller maps mean that the mega flanks that you can go on in more open map titles aren't as much as an option here. There's not really any lanes in the designs like you might see in other FPSs like arena FPSs. The maps still feel like places rather than simple game spaces. There are a number of visual and play styles though, but things do seem to be more of the rocky hillside and urban vein. There's none of the dense forest that you might see in something like Hell Let Loose. On the map front as well, they're doing a mapping contest at the moment, which at time of writing looks like it has about 30 entries. It would be nice to see some of those more popular maps even make it into the official rotation. The graphics are something of a mixed bag, I'd say. Things like the new weapons could be almost at AAA standard, but then you load into an older map and the object density and general environmental dressing doesn't really match the quality of the weapon that you're carrying. There's a kind of honest feel to the graphics again, similar to how Squad feels. Like the game isn't trying to look like a movie, happier to look closer to the footage from head-mounted cameras or something like that. Whether this is a benefit or detriment will largely depend on your preference. One cornerstone that Insurgency Sandstorm gets right is audio design. I'm always harping on about how Squad and Postscriptum feel like the benchmarks for weapon audio, but I'm really remiss in not also shouting out Insurgency Sandstorm. Weapons crack, deafen, and draw attention like they exactly should do. There's a real drama to enclosed firefights, and at the default volume levels they can be really intense experiences. If this were a Battlefield game, then War Tapes mode is really on by default in this game, so kudos to the devs for their work here. Customization is one area where Insurgency Sandstorm trods its own path in offering quite wide options for designing your character. Most player cosmetics are unlockable with in-game earned credits, and only those available in DLC packs are locked behind a paywall. The weapon skins are purely the preserve of the paid DLC packs though. There's no in-game unlockable weapon skins, and perhaps for new buyers there should be a DLC pack included. Finding something money-gated after you buy a normal price game doesn't feel like a great user experience to me. Performance kind of feels in keeping with the graphics quality. It doesn't feel like the game seems to be particularly taxing to run. I'm on a slightly odd system at the moment with a newer CPU but older 970 GPU. I don't find that performance is really a problem at all. I'm sure a modern rig will be doing gaming monitor refresh rates with no real problems at all. Before the recent open weekend, the weekday peak concurrent players were about 3.5k, so not on the Hell Let Loose or Squad level, but still respectable for a game in this kind of niche and a couple of years after launch. The open weekend saw that number rise to over 12.5k, so it seems like there's still substantial interest in the game. There's also a 50% sale on until February the 15th, so I'm guessing that a bunch of people picked it up after that free weekend, as the peak concurrent players the day after the free weekend was around 6k. The experience of playing does feel split over a number of options though. There's both the normal matchmaking PvP modes, but then there's also the popular co-op PvE options. If I'm honest, I tend to go for the PvP 99% of the time, but in trying the co-op, there is certainly a different tone to the game. It's more wave defense attack kind of feel. It's actually more challenging than I was giving it credit for as well. And certainly when I've looked at the game before, there's always people in the comments saying how much they play the PvE modes, so there certainly feels like there's demand for it. Mixing things up even more are the community servers. These are player-run affairs and can vary wildly from echoes of normal modes to custom rule sets with XP disabled. It feels more Wild Westy than normal matchmaking, as you might imagine, but I found it was the most reliable way to find higher player count games that I enjoy the most. The normal matchmaking mode seems to put you in a new server every time, so if that server starts with 8v8 then that's kind of how it plays out, and if people leave I don't recall there being new players added with backfill, but the numbers feel like they kind of dwindle over time. I'd really like to see an option to let players select to backfill for perhaps some more in-game money to keep those games more populated. So, Insurgency Sandstorm, is it worth playing? If you're looking for something with a tactical shooter feel, then I'd say it's definitely worth looking at. There are some things that this game does better than any other game in this genre that I know of. The design choices to focus on more traditional round-based structured gameplay means that the game is more suited to people who are more time limited, but also want that tactical experience. So if you work during the week and only have 30 minutes to play in the evenings, then we all know that a lot of those more open map tactical shooters like Squad, Hell Let Loose and so on, they're really not suited to such a limited time frame. Yes, there's a reduction in the reliance and hence coordination with teammates compared to those other titles, but if you're looking for something tactical and fun to have in that shorter time, then I don't know any other game that packs in so much realism, that really short time to kill and general feel to something more suited to those shorter stints of gameplay. I said the audio was good, but honestly I feel really remiss in not giving Insurgency Sandstorm more props when giving examples of games with good weapon audio. It really is on par with the top games in this genre. Insurgency Sandstorm is normally £25.99 in the UK. That does feel a little on the higher side for a game that is a couple of years in and starting to show its age in some areas. Something around the $19.99 kind of price point would feel like it might entice more people to try it. The good news is that until February the 15th, 2021, it's actually 50% off on Steam, and at £12.99 it feels like that's a lot of game for the money. That there are new patches and additional content being added is nice to see as well. The inclusion of paid DLC for the cosmetics isn't too egregious, at least when the design remains in keeping with the rest of the title. The cost is low, and like I said, there's no loot boxes or RNG mechanics. It's a game that feels like it stands on the shoulders of established FPS tropes, but then gives it that tactical shooter feel that appeals to so many people. This isn't a game that plays like or even wants to be Call of Duty. That it delivers something unique means that I'd say it's worth checking out and seeing if it fits into your stable of FPS games. So what do you think of Insurgency Sandstorm? Have you played before? Are you new? Does that 50% sale price make you wonder about picking it up? Let me know all of your powerful thoughts and feelings by leaving a comment below right now. As always, I'll be reading every single one of them. If you did enjoy this video, please do tap that thumb up button and click that subscribe button. It helps me grow the channel and continue to make videos that you enjoy watching. To those people who go that extra mile to post on Facebook or Twitter or wherever, an extra special thank you to you. It really, really is appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.
Let me load up!